What's going on YouTube? So the most important luxury segment in the US is the compact crossover, and things are really heating up. Volvo is jumping in with this all-new entry, the EX60, and it might just be a game changer, which is why I flew out to beautiful Spain today to check it out. This is a true next-generation product that represents a huge leap forward with technology, range, charging, luxury, and design. So with some seriously impressive specs, did they beat Mercedes, BMW, and Tesla? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Now, I just mentioned some really impressive specifications, so let's get things started with a quick spec dump. For battery sizes, you have between 80 and 112 kilowatt hours. For your horsepower, you have 369 horsepower on the base model, going all the way up to 670 horsepower on the P12. And then for your ranges, that's going to range from 307 miles all the way up to 400 miles. Now, if you're shopping for an EX60 or any new car, I'll remind you to go to carconfections.com/new car quotes to get access to the best price and invoice pricing information. But let's go ahead and close up the hood so that we can get into the exterior design as well as the very high-tech interior. Now, Mason's on assignment shooting some other cars for us, so today it's just me. I'm going to film a lot of this video in the first-person perspective, so let's jump right in with this exterior design. Now, there's really a lot to say about this because in a way it represents an evolution of the Volvo design, but it also has some new characteristics that Volvos haven't had in the past. So beginning up here in the front, very simple, very minimalistic. So it's going to be mostly sealed off through the center section of the grille. You've just got your Volvo logo with the latest iteration right there in the center. And then down here at the bottom, you have a fairly aggressive looking lower fascia finished in piano black. Now, there are going to be light and dark themes available. There's also going to be a cross-country model available. And if you select that cross-country, that's going to be able to bump your ground clearance up to a maximum of 7.6 inches as opposed to this 7.2 inches you're looking at right here. Now, what's different for the Volvo brand is the fact that this has a new split headlight design. So you've still got that signature Thor's hammer, but this is just going to be your daytime running light and your turn signal indicator up here at the top. It doesn't do the winking like the EX90 because the actual headlight housing is down here below. Now, as you can see, these are projector LED headlights. That's standard on all models, as well as matrix abilities. On the Ultra trim you're looking at today, that is also going to add in cornering lights as well. And overall, these are very high quality headlights. Now, moving on to the wheels, you have a variety of choices between 20 and 22-inch alloys. What you're looking at right now is the 22-inch alloy, a very large-looking wheel. It's also very conventional looking, which I appreciate, and really adds a bit of spice to the overall design. Now, you have a very modest amount of cladding down here at the bottom, nothing around the wheel arches though. And then as we come up here to our mirrors, we've got that very modern Volvo design we've seen on some of their recent products. These have all the features you'd expect as well, including auto dimming and power folding. Plus, they've got this unique frameless glass design. Now, as I pull back and the side profile comes into frame, you'll see that it has a fairly long look to it, and that's because it is fairly long. It's 189.1 inches long, which is going to be about 4 inches longer than the XC60 model, which you might be familiar with. That does also make it almost identical to a Tesla Model Y or a BMW iX3. Now, what's special about the platform that this is riding on is it's called SPA3. And what this does is basically, in addition to just being the newest iteration, it has key elements and parts actually all integrated into the structure itself. That's because this is designed from the ground up to be an electric product. Now, in terms of the design things, you'll notice that we have black window surrounds. You also have those really low profile door handles that are integrated right up there. I'll talk more about that in just a second. Now, this model does not come standard with roof rails, and that is because they're really focused on aerodynamics. This gets 0.26 as its coefficient of drag, which is quite impressive overall. And then as I pull back to the rear design, you can see that it's very aerodynamic inspired. It's got a more squared off design than what you see in many of the Volvo products in terms of the lighting, and a unique and modern take. Now, as we move to the individual features, you'll see a little bit of a spoiler, but not too large overall. Your wiper is going to be exposed out here. You have your Volvo branding across the back, as well as your different branding and your powertrain option right there. Like I was saying, the taillights themselves, definitely a different evolution of that signature vertical tail lights, kind of in two different clusters. These are very pixel in their overall execution, and as you can see, fully LED for all the elements. Down below, it's going to be very nice and smooth as a full electric product. And as far as your towing, you can actually go up to 4,500 pounds, which is quite impressive overall when you choose the top powertrain. Now, you won't see it today since I am in Europe, but this will come standard with the North American charging standard for the US market. And let's talk about safety systems. Of course, that's a big focus for the Volvo brand, and all 4 of your active safety features will be standard equipment as expected. You also have the Pilot Assist, which is available with lane change and parking assist as an option. And Volvo is pioneering a new feature with this EX60 called the Adaptive Safety Belt. This uses sensors to adapt the belt tension to body size, seating position, and more to make sure everything is optimized as best it can to keep you absolutely safe. And this is made possible by the new advanced chips, part of the Huygen core. Now, that's going to be it for the exterior, but there's still a lot to talk about with the interior. So let's go ahead and get into that. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we have reviewed over 2,000 vehicles at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from humble to high-end, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now it's time to check out the interior of this new EX60. Normally the first thing I do is show you guys the key fob, but this model actually comes with your phone as the key, or also an NFC key card as well. Instead of that traditional key fob, Volvo provided me with this iPhone for the day, and that's been working quite well for getting me into and out of the vehicle. Now, as you approach the vehicle, the mirrors will fold outward, and then we can take a look at these unique door handles I was mentioning earlier. It's just kind of a little winglet design there, super small, super minimalistic, and then back behind there is a touch sensor, so you can just pinch that, and it will open up the door. Now let's take a look inside with this brand new interior. It definitely looks very different from any of the Volvos that we've seen in recent history. And let's start by talking about the seats. So you're going to have a few different choices in terms of your materials. You're going to start off with Nordico, which is a faux leather. When you go for the Ultra trim, that will come standard with a Napa leather. And then you can also option on the wool blend. What I have today is the wool blend, so nice look to this. Good feel. I like the color contrast stitching details, and then up here in your headrest you will have some speakers, which I'll talk about a little later in the video. You have standard 8-way power adjusting seats with 2-way lumbar support. We also have the additional adjustments since we have the Ultra trim, and you have a manual thigh extension. There's no massaging though on this model. Your memory seats, those will be located inside the display as part of your driver profile. But let's go ahead and climb inside and get into all the details. Now, one of the things I appreciate about the interior is that this entire area functions as your door grab. So you just grab that and close it right up. Now that we're inside, we can look around at the rest of the cabin materials. There's a lot of kind of unique materials selected for this cabin, and we'll start over here with the door trim. We have a leatherette covering, perforated design through the center section as well as right there at the top, soft touch plastic along the very top. As we move to the upper part of the dashboard, Volvo actually selected this cloth trim all the way across it. I think it adds a unique design detail versus this vehicle's competition. And then you also have your speaker grills kind of up here, as well as that tweeter front and center for the Bauer and Wilkins sound system. Now you also have beautiful open pore ash wood that kind of runs across there, as well as down there and all the way over to the other side. Everything is nicely padded, and then you don't even have a center tunnel at all. Now we'll start it up by just putting our foot on the brake and then pressing into drive or reverse. Now you probably already noticed that unlike the EX30, we've got this separate display up here at the top. It's about 11 inches. This is going to serve as both a head-up display and a traditional gauge cluster in a sense, because as you can see, the positioning is pushed pretty far back, nicely in your line of sight. That also allows the dashboard to stay very low. I've noticed this vehicle has a really good visibility out the front. Now you can change various things inside of that design, and then as we pull back to the steering wheel, we've got a new Volvo steering wheel. It's a very small steering wheel. It's also flat on the top and the bottom, and you have a nice two-tone finish. There's not a lot of controls on here, but these are physical buttons, which is of course appreciated. You do have power adjustment as well as available heating. For the power adjustment of the steering wheel and the mirrors, you will need to go inside of the screen. Now, let's talk about interior storage, because that's one of the more interesting things about this vehicle. Of course, it was designed from the ground up to be an electric offering, which allows you a lot of flexibility with how you configure the interior storage. There's actually no conventional center console at all on this model. Instead, you have this multi-function situation. So this is going to be kind of the default. You can see that we have this just absolutely enormous pass-through space. You could come in here, throw down a purse, a diaper bag, a small amount of groceries, just about anything, and it would actually be contained in here since it has a little bit of a lip on both sides. Very versatile. You can also press in, and that's going to pop out this extra console here. So in its default configuration, this would be your 2 cup holders, but if you don't have any drinks, you can also pop that in and just use this as additional storage. So you have a lot of different options there. Furthermore, we've got some more storage up here. So big shelf. One side of this is a wireless phone charging pad, of course. If I press down right here, this will open up a drawer. This is very deep. You can see there's a lot of storage inside of there. Just be aware this actually is in replacement of a glove box. So kind of in order to give you a little bit more space over here, they've taken out the glove box and moved it into the center section. Now all that's possible because you've got the electronic shifter up here. Just press down for drive, press up for reverse. When you go into reverse, you'll see a standard 360-degree camera system pop up. I really like this camera. The resolution is very high quality and it takes up the entirety of the display here. So you have in the default configuration, the overhead view, the back view, and the front view all right there in your line of sight. No additional buttons have to be pushed, and you also have an available automatic parking system as well. Just press the end there for park. And that really brings us to this central display. Just like many of the recent Volvo products, a lot of the functions of the car are located inside of the display, but one thing that's not inside of the display, you can see right here, we actually have audio controls down below. I really appreciate having the physical volume roller as well as your skip buttons right there on the side. Now, as far as the sound system itself, you have a standard 21 speaker Bose sound system, or you can spring for the 28 speaker Bauer and Wilkins sound system. So if you've seen previous Volvo reviews, we have really praised Bauer and Wilkins sound systems in Volvo products. Let's see if this one is just as good. Yeah, so overall, the sound quality of this system is absolutely phenomenal. It just sounds so detailed, so rich. I've listened to a wide variety of music, not just the royalty-free songs today, and you can really just hear a lot of detail in the music that you normally don't hear inside of rival systems. I think a big part of that is the fact that you have these speakers actually in the headrest itself for both the front and the rear. I really like that they don't leave the rear out as well. All right, now let's kind of move into this central display. So the display itself is 15.04 inches. So can't forget that 0.04. And as you can see, really nice looking display. This is a curved display, so it's not a big curve, but it is just a subtle enough curvature that you can see it really well from both the driver or the passenger side, and that's kind of what Volvo is going for. Now, inside of the display, like I mentioned, there's a lot of different functions. Kind of the first one I want to address is your climate controls down here at the bottom. This is a 3-zone automatic climate control system. You can just adjust your temperature up and down for your driver and passenger like so. Tap right there in the middle to activate some of your additional functions. Now, this vehicle does have one thing that's a bit controversial, that's for sure. They've moved to the vents being controlled by the touchscreen. So you actually need to kind of go in here and point to the vents, call it Tesla style, but there's a lot of other rivals that have done this. That's what allows these vents to be ultra low profile, but also does feel a bit, counterintuitive. Adding extra steps to adjust the vents while you're driving is not the safest activity, in my opinion. Now, returning back to the main display, this does have a brand new software. So they really spent a lot of time, working with this infotainment system to make it a lot more responsive than the previous versions like the EX90. So this has a Qualcomm Snapdragon processor, which allows it to have 2 times the performance of the previous version. In my experience with it today, everything has been a lot snappier than before. I haven't had any real lag issues. Everything's been very responsive. You can see me kind of just tap through various functions and it all responds quite nicely overall. We definitely look forward to living with this system as well. Now, this is an Android Automotive based system, so that means you have Google Apps built in, including Google Maps, which you're looking at right now. This is also one of the very first vehicles to have Gemini built into the system as well, and that just allows you to have more conversational prompts, controlling the vehicle, things like the climate controls. You can even just say, let's talk, and just talk to the conversational AI inside of your vehicle. You have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay support as well, although I can't demonstrate it. This prototype does not have that activated at this time. Rising above, we've got our auto-dimming mirror with the frameless design. And then finally up here at the roof, we have a very large panoramic sunroof. This is a huge piece of glass. It is actually standard equipment on all models. But I do need to point out a couple things. As you can probably tell, this does not open up since it's just a single piece of glass. Also, if you want the electrochromic dimming, which is what we have on this model, it's only standard on the Ultra. You can also option it on to the Plus, and you can just go inside of the screen's menu and just tap right there. And that will allow you to kind of go from opaque to the full visibility. So that was it for all the things in the front seats, but now it's time to check out the back seats and see what you get in here. I'm happy to report that you get quite a lot, especially if you get this Ultra trim. So I'll close up the door here. And first of all, take a look around at the interior space. Lots of rear space. So you have a little bit over 37 inches of legroom and about 40 inches of headroom. I'm very impressed by this legroom figure. It honestly feels like even more than that. I don't have my ruler along with me. Again, I'm in Spain. I had to leave that back at home with Mason. But, overall, I can just tell there is tons of legroom. Also, check out this floor. It is completely flat. So that's what allows you to have so much space up underneath of the seat. Now, in terms of the features you get back here, certainly ample. We'll start out over here. We've got our climate controls. Like I mentioned, it's 3-zone automatic, so you can adjust the temperature right there. You also have the available 3-stage heated seats. You have your vents right there and a little bit of storage, as well as a couple fast charging USB connections. We turn over here, fold down the center armrest. You're going to find some cup holders underneath of that little lid there. And then you do also have the available built-in booster seats, so you can just kind of fold that up on models equipped with that, and it makes a booster seat for both the right and left side seats. You have a little bit of door storage pockets right through there. And then over on the door trim, materials are exactly the same as the front, nice and high quality overall. One thing I want to point out is you'll notice we have a couple extra buttons right over here, and that's because the seats do recline, but they have power recline. So that's very unusual for this segment of vehicle. I'll kind of give you guys a look at how that operates. So as you can see, that is being able to be adjusted with the power on the door trim instead of a physical control. A little bit more sophisticated, you could say, than what the rivals are usually offering. Of course, cargo capacity is very important as well, so let's check that out. You've got a power tailgate, obviously. And once inside, you're going to see quite a bit of space. 20.4 cubic feet of space behind the seats, and if you fold those seats down, that's going to expand things up to a maximum of a little over 64 cubic feet of space. That measurement does also include the 3 cubic feet of space that you get inside of the front. So if you're comparing this to some of the models that you might already own or be familiar with, such as the XC60, it is almost identical to that model. Now I went ahead and folded those seats flat so you can get a good look at the entire cargo area. Also, we can take a look at our underfloor storage. It's in 2 little distinct elements there, and you can see inside you got a little bin as well as an open area where Volvo put a big bag so you can see just how much storage you can have, and a little bit more storage even over there as well. Now, of course, as always, I'll remind you guys, if you're looking to compare this model or any other compact crossovers, we do have carconfections.com/vehicle rankings that allows you to compare key elements, including cargo capacity, but also things like technology, ride quality, and all the core elements you're looking for in a chart where you can actually sort based on your personal priorities. So that's carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Let's go ahead and close it up. All right, so let's get into some additional powertrain details. There's really a lot to talk about here, so I will utilize some text boxes to give you guys some really specific numbers, because otherwise there's going to be a kind of an assault of information on you and it'll be hard to keep up with. Now, like I was saying, this does have the new SPA 3 platform, and this, of course, is dedicated for BEVs, so it has a lot of tweaks underneath to improve energy density, decrease weight, use fewer resources, stuff like that, and the battery cells are actually integrated directly into the structure of this vehicle itself, adding for, structural integrity. Now, as far as your different propulsion systems, this will come in P6, P10, and P12 versions. Each one of those has distinct characteristics. Now, the base model will be the P6 rear wheel drive. That's going to have an 80 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. That's the usable capacity. And the horsepower is going to be 369 horsepower. So you still have quite a bit of horsepower even on the base model. It's going to be good for a 0 to 60 of 5.7 seconds, according to Volvo, and a range of 307 miles with the 20-inch alloy wheels. So all very compelling numbers for the base trim. Now, as we move up to the P10 all-wheel drive, which Volvo says they believe will be the volume seller for the US lineup, that upgrades you to a 91 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack, upgrades your horsepower to 503 horsepower, and improves your range to a maximum of 322. Then finally, when you go up to the P12 all-wheel drive, this is going to be the best of all worlds. So it upgrades you to a 112 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. It also improves your power to 370 horsepower. So that's definitely a ton. Good for a 0 to 60 of 3.8 seconds, and a range which Volvo is estimating to be 400 miles. So that's kind of that big range figure that a lot of people are looking for, especially in the US, where you have to drive long distances very, very frequently. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this will have a standard NACS charger and also very impressive charging speeds overall. So it now has an 800 volt architecture, which allows you to be able to charge 10 to 80% in just 18 minutes, according to Volvo. That means a 10-minute charge can get you 160 to 173 miles of total charge. Now, as far as some other things to mention, the standard model comes with frequency selective dampening. The P10 and the P12s will come with adaptive suspension, and then the cross country will even offer an air suspension. And those are all things that I'm looking forward to telling you guys about soon. So there is a driving impressions embargo in place for a few more days. I wanted to go ahead and show you guys a nice walk around of this vehicle out in the natural daylight, take a look at the inside and all the features, but you will have to wait just a little while longer to see my driving impressions for both the P10 as well as this P6 rear wheel drive, the base model. They have graciously provided that as well. So make sure you come back to the channel at the date you see down below. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this detailed look at the brand new 2027 Volvo EX60. This really is an exciting product for the Volvo brand. And if you enjoyed this very early look, make sure you go down below and click subscribe. When you subscribe, that tells automakers you value our content and you want to see things like this new product first, which gives us opportunities such as today, coming to beautiful Spain to be one of the first people to test out this all-new model. If you're already a fan and subscriber, we thank you very much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.